All right. Peace and blessings, family. Welcome back to another edition of the STEM Files, where we highlight the best and brightest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. On tonight's episode, we chat with Dr. Gladys Delancey-Bolding, a molecular biologist, on why it's never too young to get into. Tune in for more information on this dynamic discussion after this. All right, again, family, welcome back. This is the STEM Files, the voice of STEM talent in Black culture. I am one of your humble co-hosts, Jabril Muhammad, aka Jabrilliant Engineer. I am a civilian mechanical engineer focusing on naval ship fluid systems with a background in material science and engineering, which is understanding how the properties of materials are affected by their crystalline structures as well as other things. I'm joined by my big bro, my best friend and co-host Tariq Muhammad, aka Tariq Cardiac. Bro, what's going on, fam?
Yes. Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. And like Jabril was saying, welcome to the STEM Files. My name is Tariq Muhammad, aka Tariq Cardiac. I am a biomedical research scientist with a concentration in cardiovascular pathobiology, which is the study of how diseases form in the heart and blood vessels. I'm excited for tonight's show. It's right up my alley. Can't wait.
Yes, sir. We're playing a bit of back and forth with having people on that represent our respective career paths, whether it be
Right.
engineering, any different field, or the life sciences, biology. So it is Tariq's turn tonight. But enough about us. Enough about us. We know that this show is never about who hosted, but who we bring on and the expertise that they have and the wealth of knowledge they can give. So without further ado, just want to introduce Dr. Gladys Delancey-Bolding, molecular biologist. Thank you so much for coming. How are you today, man?
I'm doing well, and thank you for having me.
You, the pleasure's on.
Thank
So
you. Thank you.
we're gonna get right into it. Like we were saying, we come to give this wealth of knowledge or have you do so. So we want to get into your bio and then get into some back and forth discussion. So with that, we have Dr. Gladys Delancey-Bolding. She's a scientist, STEM educator, and founding CEO at Biologue Laboratorium, Inc. She instructs a spectrum of young minds from kindergarten through pre-med college students and K through 12 educators on anatomy and physiology, botany, cell biology and genetics, chemistry, forensics, and integrated science continuous basis. She is a bachelor in therapeutic recreation / biology and a master's of science in molecular cell physiology and a PhD. Here we go. Man, just going through that, it was short, but it was so much packed into that. So, I guess to start off, everybody's pathway has an origin. They start from somewhere, and you know, seeing as you're in STEM, can you talk to us a bit about how your STEM journey started? Young girl, was it high school, was it college? Kind of what kind of put you on the path that you're on today?
Well, first of all, let me just say that there's nothing in K 12 that stimulated any interest for me in STEM. I don't recall anything in my science courses during that time that sparked any interest. I can't recall anything. So I call myself a late bloomer because I was actually already married. I had children, and I returned to college. And that's where I developed this appetite for science. So, it started with, every college student must take at least two science courses. And I just did extremely well. I had a professor that recognized, how well I did. And I ended up winning some type of award for, the way I did, in her class. So once I continued my college career, I started taking more science courses. So it was like I developed this appetite because it was like an abyss. It was like you could never fill it. It's like you continuously learn. It's something new all the time. And I just enjoyed that. So when I decided to go for my master's, I did so well on the GRE, and not the first time. I took the GRE a couple of times, okay, because at first I didn't do well, so I had to come up with some type of strategy to do well. And once I did, my advisor, he recommended that I teach as a teacher's assistant, and they would pay for my schooling. So I would I did not expect that. So I ended up doing that. I also ended up mentoring international doctors in anatomy and physiology. I became a head TA. I won another award for biology instruction as a TA. And so I would like to say that science actually found me. And so that's how I developed this passion for it. It was because of those opportunities that came my way that I prepared for. And here I am today. And it's all because of that.
Yeah, you said something very important about usually, and Jabril and I can attest to this, usually if for those who are in STEM careers, their exposure to STEM happened at a very young age. But you said you were a late bloomer, you didn't start getting interested in science until college or until your adulthood. So speak to the individuals who feel that or who may be starting to give up because they haven't found their purpose yet, or talk to the individuals who can't seem to find the patience to understand that their desires and their purpose may come at a later age and may not always come, you know, when you're younger or what have you. Talk to those individuals.
Well, let me just say something. I also work at at a college where I manage the labs, and I'm talking about the science labs, and also I teach to college students. I teach like cell biology and genetics, environmental science, anatomy and physiology, and so I teach an array of courses there. And I have to say that a lot of times when students come in and they haven't had that exposure at an early age, they're usually very committed. They're concerned about the GPA. They're concerned about their financial aid. And another thing is those classes can be a bit rigorous. They're very challenging. So if you don't have a foundation, it's very difficult to encourage someone to pursue a career like that. So usually what I do is I tell people that, they need to give it a try, first of all, because a lot of them feel like they've missed their calling. A lot of times they're like, oh, I wish I had gone into forensic science or something like that. But if you are diligent, and because it is hard, I'm not going to say it's not a challenge, but if you are diligent and you do what you're supposed to do, you get the help that you need. So so my thing is to not give up. That's what I didn't do. I mean, I didn't get an A in every course. So I've gotten a couple of C's. I didn't fail anything, but I didn't do as well as I would have liked in some of my courses. But I was, I persevered. So that's what I would tell people is not to give up. Life is not easy. It's always going to be something that comes across your path that can be an obstacle or that can be challenging. But it's up to you to have staying power. And if it's something that you really want, you will see your way through it.
Excellent.
I'm getting a low battery. I need to change over. Okay. Go ahead. I'm listening.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. We'll definitely take care of that. Again, as we were going through some of the information in your background, I was about how you've matriculated through a number of different science STEM-related areas, right? We talked about anatomy.
I can't hear you. I'm so sorry.
You can't hear me?
Let me see. Now I can't hear you.
Okay. Tariq. Oh.
All right. So, Jabril, can you hear me still?
I can hear you. We're good.
All right, cool. So I just wanted to say, sorry for the technical issues. We've been dealing with that since before we went live. We're gonna have Dr. Bolding come back in, but Jabril, go ahead and continue the conversation, and as we work to get it back in.
Absolutely. So, family, I was just saying, one of the things she was talking about in terms of never giving up. Part of the reason why we do this show when we talk to guests. It's just you see people from so many different walks of life having got engaged in STEM at different levels and seeing what it took for them to not only get into it, but also continue to move forward. She mentioned a bit about mentorship, and she talked about how it was someone who saw something in her, a professor, after just doing well. Sometimes just doing well in something is the door to which we know if we're interested in it. Because a lot of us like the things that we do well. Whether it's a calling per se or not, it could be the thing that allows us to find our calling. And that was something that she so beautifully stated. And now, several years later, having her doctorate, bachelor's, master's degree, a number of levels, and using that, expertise to be able to not only impact people on the collegiate level, but also the STEM pipeline in the primary and secondary schooling as well.
Okay, I'm listening.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, I got you now.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
So you talk about being a STEM educator. Not you talk about it, you are a STEM educator. And
yeah,
you have covered a number of different areas as it pertains to what you teach and how you've matriculated. And one thing we like to do on the STEM files is kind of expand on or express or define terms so that everyone can understand what we're talking about. So if you wouldn't mind, could you kind of give us a brief definition of some of the different terms, whether it be anatomy, physiology, botany, cell biology, genetics, those different scientific terms that you've been a part of? What are those different areas, and so we all are well versed?
Okay, so for example, when I talk about anatomy and physiology, see, I'm talking about the body system. So usually when I'm teaching that particular course, that's for people usually that are interested in the allied health field. So if they want to be like a medical doctor, if they want to be a nurse, if they want to be a medical tech or something like that. So that's what that would apply to. And another thing is when you go to the doctor, that's refers, and if they're checking you, that's about anatomy and physiology as well. See, because what I find is that a lot of people, especially underserved and underrepresented populations, don't realize that they interact with science on a daily basis. It's just not taught to them that way, and they don't see the representation. So another thing is botany. Botany is dealing with plants. Okay, so I teach that. I had an adult student that where we started a garden at the college, was a part of the course, and she went home and she started her own garden, and she said her neighbors were looking at her in a weird way, but she started eating more healthy because of that experience with botany. Also, I teach cell biology and genetics. So we're talking about the cells, the cellular level, what's inside your body, what your organs and tissues are made of cells. So that's on a molecular level. So that's what I'm referring to when I speak about those terms.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Again, we love to clear words so that everybody's on the same page. We have, STEM enthusiasts, people like hard into academia, also just starting out. So we love that you were able to express that for us. So now we want to get into the nitty gritty, right? So we're very interested to learn more about Biologue Laboratorium, Inc. What is that? How did that start? And what is the mission of that company kind of now and moving forward?
Okay,
and tell us how you came up with the name too. I'm interested in that as well.
Okay, so let me tell you how I got started. So once I, like I told you about the accolades I received at, the college where I was the TA and everything. So because of those experiences I had at the college, I was able to land this really great position. It was at a campus, or it was a college, and they were opening up a brand new campus. And so what happened was I had the opportunity to manage the labs. So I was managing the physics lab, the microbiology lab, the biology lab, as well as the geology lab and physics. So I was entrenched in those. So it wasn't just about managing, but it was about being involved. I was, making chemicals in the chemistry lab for the faculty. I was ordering supplies. I was doing microbiology where we were culturing bacteria and everything. So I'm the type that I'm very hands-on, even though I had, qualified personnel working with me, but I get involved because you never know if something happens. You just want to be prepared and be able to handle it. So what happened was when I went to that campus, it was a predominantly white campus. It was in a rural area, but it was predominantly white. So what I found was that when I was teaching anatomy and physiology there, a lot of the students would the people of color would gravitate towards me. And that was because they saw someone that looked like them. And a lot of them were trying to go into an allied health field, but they were really intimidated by the content, and not just the content, but the terminology, by the equipment. They had never seen it before. So what happened was we had someone who would come to the campus and they would maintenance our microscopes. And one day he said that he had acquired some microscopes from a medical college. And he said they hadn't had them for about a year, but they decided to, upgrade to something different. So he asked me if I wanted to purchase one of those microscopes for a nominal fee. So I said, well, I'll treat myself to one for, a Christmas gift. And that's what I did. When I received the microscope, I was so impressed with the quality of it. I said, well, I can start a program. And so I started purchasing more of the microscopes because I thought about it and I said, well, if I can get people or youth at a very young age and give them a robust foundation, then maybe they will consider it as a career. So that's what, because I felt like early intervention would be key. Because like I said, once they get into college, they're usually committed. And then some of them have families. They're not going to stray away from whatever their plan was. So that's how Biologue got started. And the reason why I named it Biologue is because I was thinking, even though it was hands-on, I said, well, we're going to be dialoguing about biology. So that's
Oh,
where
okay.
Biologue came from.
Yeah, that's nice. I like that.
Yeah, so that's how it has expanded, beyond that. It's not just biology. However, that was the whole concept, is to introduce youth at a very young age. So I started partnering with organizations to gain access to youth, to give them that experience with microscopes and other types of equipment. And believe it or not, a lot of them were saying, I want to be a scientist, and that's what you want to hear. And even if they don't want to, or they don't, let's say they don't pursue that career, the fact is that they know that they can be it, and to hear them say it. So it was important that they see someone that looked like them and that they have that exposure. And I really believe that that's key.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I thought it was like an exotic French name to the reason, the background behind. So that's clever. I like that, dialoguing about biology. That's dope. And Jabril and I, we have a company called Original Man Scientific, and our goals are pretty much the same as yours, like early exposure to science, technology, engineering, math, but more along the research and development side, and helping them produce things from start to finish, prototyping, manufacturing, and stuff like that. But
awesome.
One of the reasons why I started Original Man Scientific was because I didn't want, I myself didn't wait until medical school to learn medicine.
Okay.
I didn't wait to get into any programs, anything like that. I took it upon myself to learn medicine or aspects of medicine in high school, so that by the time I got to college or where I'm at now, the foundation was strong, but it was strong because of the initiatives and the proactiveness I took to learn that information. So
nice.
Talk about, how important it is for young people not to wait until they get to school, and how important these programs are to get their feet wet in science.
Well, it's definitely important. But one thing I have to say is that, they have to have opportunities. And a lot of times you have to look at the parent. And if they're not familiar with the content or don't understand STEM, because for the longest, I had to keep saying STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math, because everybody would think that I was talking about stem cells. You see, so a lot of them were not familiar with the term. I think that more people are more knowledgeable because it's really out there. You have people like you, as well as me, and others that are putting it out there, so they're becoming more familiar. And there's a lot of organizations that are offering those opportunities. But who you really have to get to is the parent. They have to they have to realize that there's other options, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with sports or anything wrong with entertainment, because if you're gifted in that, we want you to go for what you're passionate about. But they need to know that these type of jobs can be lucrative, and they can lead to, better things, lead to generational wealth. So my thing is, you really have to educate the parent. And then once the parent is educated about it, then they will probably, consider investing in it.
You mentioned so many things. I was trying to keep track of everything.
I'm sorry.
No, because you talked about generational wealth. You talked about involving the parents and the need for the parents to understand. You also talked about how your name for the company, Biologue, stems from dialoguing about biology. And I wanted to talk about, because a lot of times we'll hear in our community.
Jabril.
Huh?
Jabril, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can you come a little closer to the screen and speak up a little bit?
Oh, my bad.
No, you're good.
That better? Can we hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. Good. So Biologue, we talked about dialogue about biology. One of the things we hear a lot is that there's a disconnect between the young people and their elders. And when you can say instruction seems to imply that I'm being talked at or down to in some way, shape, or form. But when you bring in the concept of dialogue, to me, I hear there's a back and forth reciprocation when it comes to information. So I say something to you, you respond, and you give me a gem, I give you a gem. So can you speak to the importance particularly when it comes to STEM or anything of difficulty in grasping, why it's important to surround that topic or surround that exchange with dialogue as opposed to just simply talking at someone?
Well, let me just say this. I'm glad you asked that question, because you have to make the content relatable in order for it to be a dialogue. Okay.
Right.
So my thing is, it depends
like
on, you have to relate it to that environment. Like, people ask me, okay, you don't take a child that hasn't had any experience and give them hardcore science. You give them a foundation with something like environmental science, where they can test water. Okay, because everybody interacts with water. You drink
Right.
it, you take baths in it. So you show them how they can test it, and you tell them about when you're testing it, like, for example, fluoride or something. Okay, this is what will happen if you have too much fluoride in the water. You'll get brown teeth. You see, so you can make it relatable. It has to be relatable. So you know, a lot of times, you know, people say, oh, if you live in a certain community, you know, science is not represented. It's everywhere. You know, just like the issue in Michigan, I think it was Michigan, where they had the problem with the water. So was it, where was it? Okay, yeah. So, but my thing is, that was a great teaching moment. They could have introduced their students at that time to how to test water. I know that they had an issue, but you have to use those opportunities as teachable moments, because that's the way you can get a child involved in STEM. And then it can lead to a job. Like a lot of things that we do at Biologue, we know that the skills that we offer are transferable into the workplace. Okay, so we do things like, you know, we give them authentic experiences. Now, it's all, you know, we don't give them, you know, like 5-year-olds, you know, things that I say a 12th grader would do. But we have 5-year-olds that are looking through microscopes, that are actually preparing wet mount slides. Okay, because they can actually do it. It just has to be done in a safe environment.
Right. Right. Awesome. Awesome. So then,
Absolutely. Oh, go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
Sorry, last question. I'm turning back over to you. So then, Biologues, I guess more on that. What is the actual age range for Biologue, and then what are some additional examples of projects, or, like, if you want to call it, coursework that you've done in Biologue?
Okay, well, it's very important to us that everything is hands-on, because STEM can be, and especially science, can be abstract. Okay,
Yeah.
So if you haven't had that experience with it, you can't even imagine it. So we want them to actually do something with their hands so that they can start processing it and asking questions. So like I said, for the 5-year-olds, we do microscopy, and that goes all the way up to, you know, actually we have young adults. So I deal with 5-year-olds all the way up to college students. I'm working with interns who don't have any opportunities, and they want to have this experience because they're interested in working. Like, for example, the one I'm working with now, she wants to work in a lab. So she's never done gel electrophoresis. She's never done PCR. So I'm introducing her to those type of techniques so that she can build her skill set and be prepared to work in that environment, as well as sell herself and say, I have this experience. I also worked with another college student. She's going into public health. And what I'm doing with her, we did microbiology. Okay. So she learned aseptic techniques. She learned hand washing techniques, which is very relevant to what's happening today. We also do research. Okay. So we usually try to select a topic that's related to something that's going on. So one of my interns is we're working on a research project where we're going to be doing a survey where we can learn what she wants to learn about colorectal cancer because of what happened with Bozeman. Yes, exactly. So we're going to be putting out a survey to Black males. We're, you know, formatting it now. And this gives her an opportunity to explore that, because a lot of us are not even represented in research. A lot of us are not included in research, you know?
Right.
And then I have another one where we are actually doing something. Usually I'll do this during Black History Month. We do something related to sickle cell anemia, where they get a chance to do gel electrophoresis, and they get a chance to actually see what happens. You can collect the data of what's happening when someone has a sickle cell trait, when they have normal blood, and when they have actual sickle cell. So those are some of the things that we're doing. Mm-hmm.
You know, this is this is going to be one of my favorite episodes, because we're talking about stuff that I do or have done, and like your background is pretty much the same as mine, but mine's is more along the cardiovascular side.
Nice.
But
yeah.
First and foremost, I just want to say we're definitely going to be reaching out to you, because we want to help you all with what you're doing.
Awesome.
not only on the research side, but also taking it further into some actual intellectual property.
Nice.
Let's clear a few words. So we talked about gel electrophoresis, we talked about PCR. Talk a little bit about those different types of laboratory techniques, what they're used for, as layman as you can.
Okay, so for example, let's say if you find, like, let's talk about forensic science, because everybody loves crime scene investigation. Let's say if you find some blood, and it's a small amount of blood, like a splatter or something, and the investigators want to collect it to try to find that information. Well, they would use a PCR technique to amplify it. When I say amplify it, to get more copies of it, so that they can use it to test it for various things. Okay. When it comes to gel electrophoresis, okay, let's say if you have a situation with paternity, you want to know whether it's the mom, whether this is the dad. We know it's the mom, but whether this is the dad. Okay, so you can use gel electrophoresis and to help identify whether that is the father or not. Okay. And another thing I wanted to mention was we also do something in reference to CRISPR. Now, CRISPR, let me just tell you what that's about. That's about knocking out genes, or,
Right.
and those usually are bad genes. And so we actually have an experiment that we do where they have an opportunity to see how that works. And what's so great about it is all of the skill sets, the micropipetting, the making of the media, the culturing the bacteria, and then collecting the data. So we also do that as well. And I'm really proud of that.
Oh my God. I love it's one thing to see Black people let me take it back for a minute. It's one thing to see people doing science like this, but it's another thing to see Black people doing it with Black youth.
Absolutely.
So I love this. Like I said, this is my area, and I am excited. I'm happy about this episode. I feel great right now to hear, absolutely, to hear Black people talk about things like this. I want to go a little bit more into gel electrophoresis, because that was a topic I had a difficult time learning about in high school, when I first started getting into laboratory sciences. And there was a lot of elements I didn't understand. So talk about how the method in which you use to teach them about these tools, and how you break it down for them to understand.
Right. So the main thing is that I want them to actually do it. So we do have like a 15-minute, you could quote unquote a lecture, where we will discuss what we're doing, how it's done. So we're actually making the gel. So I don't, prepare anything. I want them to do everything. Okay. So we're actually making the gel, and then usually we'll have some samples that are, usually purchased from a vendor. So we'll discuss those samples. So like, for example, like I said, we did the sickle cell anemia. So we were given like simulated hemoglobin. One was supposed to be normal, the other one was supposed to be sickle cell, the other one was supposed to be trait. So usually, first of all, they have to know how to make wells, where to put the sample into the wells, right? And then also they have to know about the thickness, as whether it's going to be a 0.8%. So there's some math involved, a 1.5%. So we also do some math. That's important to me that we incorporate that math. And then we discuss how those molecules, so we're testing for proteins in that case, because we could test, if you're doing gel electrophoresis, I tell them you could test for DNA, you can test for RNA, or you could test for proteins. So in that case, we're testing for proteins for the sickle cell anemia, because we're talking about hemoglobin, okay? And that's what carries the oxygen. So then we go on, so I explain to them how the smaller molecules are going to move faster. So you can compare that with weight. Usually a person who's lighter in weight can move faster than one who's a little bit heavier, right? So then we also talk about the negative and the positive poles, and we talk about how even DNA is negatively charged. It's going to move towards the opposite direction. Okay, so from negative to positive. And so then we discuss the bands that are going to be created, and it tells them how, basically how big the DNA is. Okay, and so that's pretty much, I take them through that whole process of how you start with making the actual gel to actually creating those wells and pipetting into those wells. Believe it or not, people have a hard time putting those samples into those wells. Okay. And then we don't do wet, we don't do it in the actual solution. We do dry pipetting. So, and I tell them that, so I always tell them that there's options, because it's very important to me that if they decide to take this pathway, they have to think critically, and they have to start analyzing, what if something is not available to you? Okay. So is there anything that you can do? Can you improvise? So that's to get them to think, like, what can you use if you did not have what was available to you, what's available in that lab that you can supplement with, so those are the type of things. So I take them through that whole thing, what the purpose of the buffer is. We go through how the equipment actually works, the chamber, and what you're supposed to see, like those bubbles in it, and that tells you whether it's working or not. So yeah, so that's basically, I take them through the whole thing. We start from the bottom. I want them to ask questions, and I want to provide the answers, to the best of my knowledge and all my experiences.
I tell you what, so Jabril, keep the conversation going. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up a picture of what gel electrophoresis typically looks like.
Awesome.
But go ahead and keep the conversation going. I didn't think about it. It's going to take me a minute.
Okay, no problem. Family. Listen, if y'all are not being thoroughly fed right now, see, I'm an engineering guy, right? So as I'm sitting here listening, I'm just taking in. I had nothing to add other than, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more, right? So as you are breaking that down, yes, I had, my background is in material science, so I had a bit of a background in chemistry and everything, some nanoscale science. But everything that you're talking about, I'm just like, we gotta see more of like what you're doing, see how we can collaborate. As you're talking about sickle cell, I was thinking about a mentor of mine and like a big sister to me, Sister Tahira Austin Muhammad. She is the Chief Operating Officer of the Crescent Foundation here in Philadelphia, and they help to champion the cause of sickle cell awareness in the city, as well as other things, and also all have medical backgrounds in terms of those in the foundation. So I'm sure she would be so excited. I'm not sure if she's watching that, but she's so excited about that work that you do in terms of educating young people on what it is from a scientific perspective.
Exactly.
Again, this is the STEM Files, the voice of STEM talent and Black culture. We are Jabril Engineer and Tariq Cardiac, live at the STEM Files on Facebook and YouTube, as well as my personal page, Jabril Muhammad, and Tariq's page, Tariq Cardiac Muhammad, on Facebook. Follow us for all upcoming content and shows at the STEM Files at THESTEMFILES on Instagram as well. Gosh, man. I wanted to talk about when you're interacting with your students, and you mentioned something earlier about, they may not go into science, or they may not desire to have a career path or a professional path that is directly linked with STEM. Can you speak to the importance of just having or being exposed to the scientific mind or critical thinking as a skill set that can then be utilized for your advantage later on in life?
And and that's why I always say that the skills that you acquire from STEM, and it can be applicable to anything, because it's going to require, especially the 21st century opportunities are going to require you to think critically, to analyze data, okay, right. Also to collaborate. We also encourage collaborations. We want them to share. We want to hear their ideas. We want them to even make a mistake. And that way, because nobody is perfect. And that's why we provide that safe environment. But that's what I tell them all the time. Even if you do not pursue one of these careers, these are skill sets that you can use in whatever field that you are in. And because you're going to have to analyze things. And it doesn't have to be, specifically science. It doesn't have to be anything in STEM. But in any career that you're in, that's just something that's required, analyzing your life, I'm just saying. So it's just skill set that is required to me for survival.
Absolutely. Wow.
All right, fam. I'm gonna okay, go ahead, bro. I'm sorry.
No, she just mentioned that last word, survival. And that's really what I was getting to. A lot of times, we have gotten used to just existing in this life. I had the pleasure, one of our previous guests, Brother Michael Muhammad, him and his family have a about 20 plus acre farm, new farmers and new land acquisition in Lehighton, PA, called MSGLV Farms. And we were talking to them about like how to utilize your land. And one of the things they were doing, my wife and I had the pleasure of being at, is their overnight camping and survival experience. But now when we're just talking about just in your mentality, like you mentioned, what can you do in this laboratory setting if you don't have everything you need? Now, some things, it's like, if I don't have it, it's probably not in my best interest to do this experiment, or it's just impossible. But there are ways to kind of reshape the experiment to your needs or your current situation to still
Exactly.
same result. Can I think through that? You know what I'm saying? As an adult,
Exactly.
if I realize at the end of each month, there's a lot more month than there is money. Can I think critically on how to budget myself to be able to function right in society in terms of the money that I have? So all of it, I think that law of cause and effect and the ability to think or be a highly functioning human being in society as being directly linked to STEM. So thank you definitely for that. Tariq.
Exactly.
Yeah. I've been witness to that, you know, because right now I'm working on a project where I'm developing a test to develop a certain type of biological substance. And I'm telling you, like the challenges that I faced, you know, just with the concept alone can be very challenging, you know, to somebody who is limited on resources or something or anything along those lines. So it's important to be able to think through a project in a different way so that you can get it done. You know, but
Absolutely.
I want to show some pictures of or some examples of gel electrophoresis, and you can kind of go through each picture and telling the audience what they see. So what are some of the things we're looking at right here?
Okay, so I know I see the chamber there. The pictures are not that close. I'm looking at the chambers, and then I'm looking at these black horizontal lines. Those are actually bands. Those are bands. Okay. I can't hardly see the one with the green. Is that supposed to be? It looks like a tray. Is that a tray?
Yeah, that's the tray with the gel sheet on
With the
top.
gel in it. So it looks
Right.
like you've had some samples put in there and they migrated upward. So it's kind of hard to see because you have them like in a it's like a collage and they're not that
Yeah.
large.
I
Yeah,
apologize for that.
that's fine. Yeah, and again, I see that's a pretty big tray. The one to the right at the top,
Yeah.
that's a pretty big tray. That's a big tray. What were you testing there? I'm just curious.
Oh no, these aren't my images.
Okay,
I don't have access to mine on my phone. These are just
okay,
some things I
gotcha.
found on Google.
Yeah. So this is that's basically at the bottom right. Though that's equipment, and then to the left of that, that's data. So apparently those gels were already run, and so that's providing you with some type of data. And the dark horizontal lines are actually bands from the samples. Okay, and then it looks like you have the same thing going on at the top, except it's actually the slab, and it looks like that one you probably received some samples where I see they have multiple colors there, which is really really nice, especially because I use multiple colors for my youth because you can understand a little bit better. That one at the bottom is more for advanced people who are working in the labs. But when I work with my youth, I use the top left one so that they could see the differences and know that their samples are different. So, because at the
Got
bottom,
it.
that's very, very advanced. Yeah.
So when you say gel electrophoresis, can you explain the electro part?
So basically, what you have is you have to put in a buffer, and that buffer provides a current. That's what that is. And so that helps the molecules travel up the slab, which is the gel.
Got it. Excellent.
Mhm.
All right, I appreciate that breakdown. I'm sorry the pictures are
No, yeah, it's a
not.
little far away, but I did the
Yeah.
best I could with what I saw.
Right. Actually, at this time, so I'm currently still at work. So at this time, I actually have to get going. But Jabril, can you please hold down the show
Oh yeah,
for the
bro.
for the remaining 20 minutes? I'm so sorry, Dr.
That's
Bolding,
okay.
but
That's fine.
we'll definitely get back, be in
Okay.
touch with you in terms of working together. Okay.
Awesome. Nice speaking with you. Really nice.
All right. Excellent. Have a great show, everybody.
Okay.
All right, yes, sir.
Peace.
Peace.
Okay.
All right. So now that he's out of the oh, awesome, family. We are more than halfway through the show. We've been rocking
Yes.
and rolling, learning a lot, getting into the nitty gritty of terms, electrophoresis. My co-host Tariq got his time to geek out on biological sciences and everything, which is always good to see when someone who works in the field or gives so much is able to really kind of have that childlike moment and just geek out on things they're interested in as well. I want to talk a little bit about COVID and just in terms of operations. Obviously we live in a society now that's been very affected in terms of mobility and the way we just do things. And in terms of your ability to move and operate, particularly as it pertains to Biologue? Have you all made any adjustments, and are you still operating now? You do anything virtual, or how have you adjusted to the current COVID landscape?
Well, you know, as a scientist, I know how serious viruses are. And let me just say that we interact with viruses all the time. And the only time we really hear about them is when they cause a problem.
Right.
And, you know, and especially coronavirus. So I actually do microbiology in my lab, as well as I do presentations. So to answer your question, because I know how dangerous coronavirus is, I do not do any face-to-face. I'm not doing any face-to-face. I'm not comfortable with it for myself. I wouldn't want to bring something home to my family. And I wouldn't want anything to happen to anyone's children. And I
Right.
wouldn't want them taking anything home. So what I have done is I pivoted to doing online presentations. Now, let me just say this, like when I'm working with interns, I provide them with a kit. So we're actually doing real experiments virtually.
Okay.
Okay. And then I've also partnered with an organization where I'm offering them the microbiology, because I really think that personally, microbiology should be taught at a younger age, really in elementary school. And the reason why I say it is because we live with bacteria and
Right.
microorganisms all the time. It's just that, like I said, you don't hear about them until they cause a problem. And I think if we can teach hand hygiene at an early age and teach them that these organisms, these microorganisms exist, I think that they will become more knowledgeable, and we wouldn't have a situation like we're having now where people don't understand, because a lot of times people don't believe what they can't see.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because, you know, as it pertains to people getting in touch with you, I'm sure there are going to be those interested in learning more about what you do, particularly signing, you know, themselves or, you know, their colleagues or young ones up for that experience. So the ability to be able to do, you know, it now is so key. And that brings me to a point with us. So our parent company, me and Therese, above the STEM files, is called Original Man Scientific, and through that we have started, you know, on the 4th week of our invention and innovation workshops. We found that, you know, in our communities, it's very important to us, particularly in the Black community, to, when we are interested in something and when we have ideas, to not have the ideas just leave us as quickly as they came. A lot of times we find that we'll have ideas, but for whatever reason, whether we don't feel like, you know, we know enough, have the right equipment, mentorship, access to personnel, for whatever reason it dies out. So we wanted to be able to do this program to assist in our desire to awakening young people to what it means to invent and innovate, right? And then, if they so choose, actually go through the process of starting to invent something, or just get their mind oriented around the process
Exactly.
which they're doing it. So we opened up with what is an invention, what is an innovation. We talked to them about the creative process. You know, we just got finished talking to them about invention questionnaires, the invention journal, which is the most important thing, really. Like,
Right.
every scientist or person who innovates or creates, any great creator has a notebook or has some type of thing that houses all their information of all their ideas that they've had. So I definitely applaud the work that you're doing and have done on behalf of our youth, our people, or just people in general as well, to be able to keep that light on that so often dims as we matriculate through school. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, STEM, it's so easy to become, I just need to get this passing grade. You know,
Right.
when you get to school, you know, go to college and everything. And I found myself like doing things like no longer reading for fun. Like, a lot of times if I was reading something, if I was at the library, it was to study. Or if it was just, you know what I'm saying, I was homeschooled. So I grew up reading for fun in addition to reading. So I just wanted to have that slight anecdote to kind of just thank you for all that you've done.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for acknowledging that.
Yes, ma'am. You're very welcome. Um, Going back to your program, but just in terms of your interactions with the multitudes of people you interact with, do you ever get people that come to you with an entrepreneurial mindset? And how do you marry the scientific mindset onto their entrepreneurial aspirations if they have them?
Well, you know what? That's not difficult at all. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I actually have a student. She's 15 years old. She has been with me for approximately 2 years. She actually advanced to facilitating a lab. She's only 15 years old. Okay. She's really smart. And so what I thought was interesting, and this is how important representation is. She was saying that, first of all, she wants to go into, I think it's biomedical engineering. And
Mm,
now she has decided that she wants to have her own lab.
mm,
So a lot of times you don't have to say anything. The fact that they see someone that looks like them and they see what you're doing and they want to emulate that. So there you go. There is that entrepreneurial part. She sees that I have my own lab. So she's saying, this is something that I want to do. So she knows that it's possible because she sees me.
right, right.
hmm So yeah, so but I definitely the whole life, like you said, the whole idea behind it is to get them thinking. Okay.
Right.
So it's not like I'm telling them they have to have a job. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that these are opportunities. Okay. And entrepreneurship is definitely something that I advocate for because that's what I'm doing. So but definitely like I said, when they see someone, and just like you and Tariq, people see what you're doing. You're representing, somebody, and somebody's going to see what you're doing, and they're going to want to do the same thing. So that's why it's so important that representation does matter, and they see you doing it.
Absolutely. I'm definitely thankful to you for acknowledging that. Whatever small thing we're able to do as we're building, we always understand that the ability to remain humble in what you do. It's always going to be somebody that's going to do it better. But even more than just doing it better, there's people who are looking at you for what it is that you're doing on whatever,
Exactly.
right? Either in a way to assist you, to applaud you, to champion you, or to just do it themselves, right?
Exactly.
And oh man, I lost my train of thought. I had another question.
We were talking about entrepreneurship.
We were talking about the entrepreneurship. Golly, I literally forgot what I was going to say. All right, well, it'll hopefully come back to me.
Okay.
Let's see. Had something else.
Let me ask you something. Do you just
Yes.
work with males? Do you just work with males?
Do I
Or
just work with males? No.
okay, so you work with male. So it doesn't matter. It's not gender specific. Then you work
No,
with.
specifically for this program. This is the inaugural cohort of this program that we just had. So this is the first year we're doing it. It's co-ed. Initially open to ages 8 to 18, and what we decided was, as we continue to build on it and get more students, we might even section that off a little bit to have 8 to maybe 11, 12, 13 to 15, maybe 15 to 18, because we know that even it's something to be able to see yourself, and even seeing yourself as the same ethnicity, same race, right? There's nothing to see yourself in the same age group. Like, I'm gonna be a little less interested maybe if I'm as an 18-year-old somewhere with an 8, 9, 10-year-old, because the language may not be the same. It's kind of hard to have language catered to so many different age groups. When one's attention, you'll be here, but to keep another's attention, you have to be here. So we definitely work with both, young males, young women. We understand that they're both germane to advance this. Yes, and we'll definitely be doing another one soon, and also advancing to doing adults as well.
Okay, yeah. See, that's how I feel. I feel like our community as a whole, needs this experience. So I could not just focus on one particular gender. So I actually work with both as well. I'm very comfortable with that. Yeah, So yeah.
So I love this part in your bio. It talks about your bachelor's of science in therapeutic recreation and biology. That was something that stuck out to me because it seemed like it was just different than the other ones. Can you kind of speak to, I guess, how you got to the therapeutic recreation and what that really is?
Well, yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I really didn't like therapeutic recreation.
Okay.
But what I found was that although I may not have particularly cared for it, I never really actually did much work in it. I actually, to be honest with you, the only experience I had in it was doing internships. I didn't feel like it had enough depth. But it's a really funny thing because although I never actually worked in therapeutic recreation, I'm still using some of those skill sets in Biologue, because when I'm providing these opportunities for students, I'm trying to give them like a recreational feel, because I don't want them to think that it's hardcore science. So although it's a really funny thing, because I thought about it and I said, wow, so, you know, usually when you do something, you can marry all of those things together as long as they make sense. You know what I mean? So that skill set, because when I did my interns in that particular area, you know, I worked like basically with people who were mentally challenged. So I was working on the psychiatric ward, and we were providing activities for them. So that's the only thing that I can see that's related, but it just didn't have that depth for me, and that's why I did the biology component, and that provided more of what, you know, I wanted. Awesome. You know, because I'm still learning. I'm always, you know, attending webinars to learn more, so that I can stay current in my field. So I can, because I always want to provide my students with, you know, up-to-date content.
Right.
You know. Right. So I'm always I'm a lifelong learner. Let's just say that I'm a lifelong learner.
That was a wonderful segue to my next question. You know, that was something that a mentor of mine always told me. You know, currently working in mechanical engineering, a background in material science engineering, which is really my like, first love as it pertains to my actual engineering field. You know, you talked about the importance of staying abreast of what's happening in your field and being a lifelong learner. Can you speak to, if someone's a young person or anyone trying to be great in STEM, can you speak to either a skill set or a particular skill or an area of study outside of what's traditionally known to be STEM that can be crucial or advantageous to one getting an understanding of or studying that will help them be successful in their STEM career?
And you said something that's not related to STEM, correct?
Outside of STEM, like just whether it could be just a simple skill set or an actual field of endeavor or study that can be an asset to your work.
Definitely communication.
Yep.
Communication, because you're going to have to know how to communicate, you know, in anything that you do. And especially when it comes to science, because you don't want to blow up anybody, you know, and so you have to communicate things. I'm constantly communicating with people in the lab. I can see, I don't just deal with faculty, but I also deal with student workers. I also deal with custodial services. I also deal with the technology department. I have my tentacles in a lot of different areas, and I have to be very clear on what I'm telling them. So communication is definitely something. I mean, you can even go into scientific writing if you're really good with science communication, but I'm just saying, but definitely communications. You know, people take that for granted. There are times that you may even have to speak before an audience. Okay, it may not be your choosing, but you may, if you're in a certain capacity or position, you may be asked to do that. You see, so that's definitely something that is necessary, really, across the board.
You hit the nail on the head. That's something my supervisor prides himself on hiring people for today, their ability to communicate. It's like he told me when I came over to his group, he was like, you know, I already assume, you know, I see the University of Pennsylvania on your resume. I see these places like you've worked here or you've been around, you graduated. So I'm assuming that the technical acumen or the technical expertise to any level is there. You know what I'm saying? Like, unless you were like, it's completely some glaring things that are like, oh my God, this is like ridiculous. The technical aspect is there. What else do you bring to the table? We work in teams here. Can you communicate? I've done briefs. I've spoken in front of youth. I've done outreach events, and these other people as well. You know, we have to, you know, sell people or stakeholders on different programs or going in this direction, brief you on what we've done. So if we can't articulate what we're doing, then what we're doing really has no meaning. It's almost like you're not even doing it.
That's right.
So it's your ability to, like, you know, you think about the engineer, or you think about the stereotypical engineer, I just sit here and code, or I just sit here by myself and do this, or I'm even Tony Stark. That is so beyond what it is that you do, right? We work in teams and we tackle problems that need so many different schools of thought or avenues to come together.
Exactly.
There's one solution that it can be definitely very taxing sometimes. So definitely thank you for that communication piece.
Definitely.
Well, Dr. Bolding, it has been wonderful. We have approached the end of the show. We told you it would go fast. Family, again, this has been the STEM Files. We highlight the best and brightest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. The brilliant engineer, Tariq Cardiac. As we come to the end of the show, we like to do this new portion of our show, which we call the STEM Files Speed Round. So basically, all we do is, this is a goal to try to learn a little bit more about our guests. We'll ask you a question or say a statement, and then just very as quickly as you can, give us an answer, and then we might unpack it a little bit, and we'll just keep going. It's nothing crazy, nothing major, but we try to keep our guests on their toes.
Okay.
All right. So let me pull up those questions. Righty. All right. So, you ready?
Mm-hmm. I guess. I hope so.
The first thing you do or think of when you wake up.
Oh gosh, the first thing I think, you know what? The first thing I think of is God, thanking God that I got up this morning. So that's the first thing. Yes.
I had a feeling you were going to say that. Praise be to Allah. Yes.
It's true though. It's true.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Hey, listen, you'd be surprised how many people don't say that.
Oh wow.
Hot or cold?
I'm sorry?
Hot or cold?
Hot.
Hot. Walking or jogging?
I'm kind of like in the middle on that. I like both. I do a little bit of each.
Walking.
There you go. There you go.
Yes, okay. Professional research or volunteerism?
Professional research.
Why?
Because like I told you, I'm always looking for a way to get more knowledge and to provide opportunities that are current. So that's just me. Mm-hmm.
I like that. You know, we've gotten different answers on that, and both are valid, right? And I think sometimes a lot
exactly. There's no wrong answer.
Right. They will say professional research because they will say it allows me to be better on the volunteerism side. You know what I'm saying? So, okay. Let's see. Favorite pair of shoes of all time?
Favorite pair of all time?
Yes, shoes. Yes, ma'am.
So is it a specific shoe? Is it a brand or?
Shoe.
Oh, okay. Shoe. So I like flip-flops.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Hey, comfort, and they look, a lot of them are snazzy. You got a lot of snazzy with the long toe, the slide, you know what I'm saying? Flip-flops nowadays are real
I like
nice.
flip-flops.
Yes, ma'am. iPhone or Android?
Android.
Oh, Tariq would have loved to be on here for that.
Yeah, I'm an Android person. Yeah.
Yes. Favorite thing to cook?
Seafood.
You another seafood person? Any particular seafood dish, or just seafood in general?
Just seafood in general. I'm a seafood person. Yeah.
Okay. Favorite song of all time?
Oh, that's a hard one. There's so many. But you know what? I'm gonna tell you which one I'm going with though. Odyssey, Native New Yorker.
Okay. Odyssey. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I think I know the answer to this. Youth engagement or raising money for your nonprofit?
Youth engagement.
I knew it.
Yeah, youth engagement. Yeah.
Okay. The worst job you've ever had?
Oh, the worst one I ever had? Oh, that's when I was actually teaching for this it was like one of those I think it's like a continuing education type of school, and what it is that they wanted you to give the students the answers, and I couldn't do that, so I think I ended up getting fired.
It happens to the best of us. Family, if you're watching, it happens to the best of us. But look at her now. You never even thought about it, right?
Exactly. So yeah.
Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah.
Sci-fi or horror?
Say it again.
Sci-fi or horror in terms of films?
You know what? I have a little background noise. Say it one more time.
Sci-fi or horror, like for movies? You still there? Oh, she froze up a little bit. Let's see if we can get her back. Dr. Bolding, are you still there? All righty. Well, family, as we are at the end of the show, that was an awesome speed round. And like we were saying, we thank you for taking your time, bearing with us over our technical difficulties. This has been another edition of the STEM Files, family, the voice of STEM talent in Black culture. Tune in again next time, Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for the same great content. Jabril Engineer, Tariq Cardiac. We so thankful for y'all being on. We love y'all. Peace. Enjoy your evening. And stay tuned for more down the line.